The SEAL Admiral asked her call sign as a joke until Iron Widow made him collapse in shock.
They didn't expect her to answer. That was the first mistake. The briefing room at the naval base was packed. SEAL candidates lined in perfect rows, senior operators along the walls, and at the front a group of high-ranking officers observing quietly. The atmosphere was sharp, professional, heavy with reputation. She stood near the back, quiet, composed, unassuming. No flashy patches, no decorated vest, just a woman in standard gear, hands clasped behind her back, eyes forward. To most people in the room, she blended into the background, and that was exactly how she preferred it. The SEAL Admiral leaned back in his chair, scanning the candidates with bored confidence. He had seen hundreds like them. Tough talkers, big egos, future legends, at least in their own minds. His eyes landed on her. A faint smirk crossed his face. "All right," he said casually, voice echoing across the room. "Let's hear call signs." A few candidates straightened, proud smiles forming. This was their moment. The Admiral pointed randomly. Reaper, Ghost, Viper. Each name earned nods in quiet approval. Then his finger landed on her. The room shifted slightly. "And you?" he asked, tone amused. "What's your call sign?" A couple of SEALs exchanged looks. Someone near the wall chuckled. Everyone assumed the same thing. She probably didn't even have one. She lifted her head slowly. No rush, no nerves, just calm. "Iron Widow," she said. The room didn't react. At first. Then the Admiral froze. The smirk vanished. His posture changed so fast it was almost violent, shoulders locking, eyes narrowing, breath hitching in his chest. The room felt like someone had sucked the oxygen out of it. A senior operator near the wall stiffened instantly. Another whispered under his breath, "No, it can't be." The Admiral stared at her now, not amused, not relaxed, shaken. Because Iron Widow wasn't a nickname. It was a classified legend, and standing quietly in the back of the room was the one person no one ever expected to see again. Silence fell hard. Not the awkward kind, the dangerous kind. The kind that only comes when everyone realizes they've stepped into something far bigger than themselves. The Admiral didn't sit back anymore. He leaned forward slowly, fingers tightening on the edge of the table. His eyes never left her face. "Iron Widow?" he repeated, quieter now. Around the room, seasoned SEALs stiffened. A few shifted their weight unconsciously, like men who just heard a round chambered behind them. Because that name wasn't spoken. Not in jokes, not in briefings, not ever. Years ago, it had been scrubbed from after-action reports, replaced with redacted lines and sealed files. Missions that went wrong, and then somehow didn't. Entire teams extracted alive when doctrine said they shouldn't have been. One operator near the wall swallowed hard. "I thought she was KIA, someone whispered. Another shook his head slowly. No, no body, no confirmation, just gone. The Admiral stood up. The scrape of his chair echoed like a gunshot. "How do you know that call sign?" he asked, voice sharp now, not mocking, not curious, interrogative. She didn't flinch. "Because it was assigned to me," she said evenly. That was all. No explanation, no defense. The Admiral's face had gone pale. He remembered the reports, the ones he'd signed and then locked away. The operator who kept moving with shrapnel in her side. The operator who refused extraction until every man was out. The operator who vanished into smoke and fire so others could live. The room felt smaller. He took a step closer. "You were pulled from the roster," he said slowly, "declared unfit for active duty." Her eyes met his. "I was declared inconvenient." That landed harder than any accusation. Around them, the candidates were no longer watching a briefing. They were witnessing history reopening. The Admiral exhaled, sharp, unsteady. "If you are who you say you are," he said, voice dropping. She interrupted him, calm, controlled. "Then you already know." The Admiral looked at her for a long moment. Then, quietly, so quietly it shook the room more than shouting ever could, he said, "My God, Iron Widow." And for the first time in years, the legend stood in front of them, alive.
The Admiral didn't sit back down. Instead, he turned slowly toward the officers lining the wall, men who had seen war up close and knew when something was off. He didn't need to explain. They could feel it. "If this is a mistake," he said, voice tight, "we end it now." His eyes returned to her. "If it's not," he paused, "then we finish what we started years ago." The room held its breath. "Bring up the Widow file," the Admiral ordered. An aide hesitated, just a fraction too long. "Sir," he said quietly, "that file is sealed under my authority," the Admiral snapped. "Now." Screens along the wall flickered to life. Black and white mission stills, grainy helmet cam footage, redacted names, coordinates no one spoke about anymore. The candidates stared, confused, until they saw her. Younger, bloodied, still moving. One clip showed her dragging a wounded operator through waist-high water under fire. Another froze on a frame where she stood alone at a breach point, signaling others through while rounds sparked around her. The room shifted. This wasn't propaganda. This was survival. A senior SEAL whispered, "She held that corridor for 6 minutes." Another shook his head. "No one holds that long." The Admiral's jaw clenched. She did. He turned to her again. "You were ordered to extract," he said. "You disobeyed." "Yes, sir," she replied. "And stayed behind, alone." "Yes, sir." The Admiral's voice dropped. "Why?" She answered without hesitation. "Because they were still inside." That was it. No speech, no justification, just truth. The Admiral stared at the footage again, then at her, and something cracked. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the table to steady himself. This wasn't defiance. It was command under fire. He swallowed hard. "You collapsed after that mission," he said. "Medics said you'd never operate again." Her expression didn't change. "I didn't collapse," she said calmly. "I finished." The room was silent, because now they understood. Iron Widow wasn't a story. She was the standard, and the Admiral knew exactly what came next. The Admiral stared at the final frozen frame on the screen, her silhouette, standing alone in smoke. Slowly, he turned it off. The room stayed silent, waiting. He took one step forward, then another, but his balance faltered. A hand reached for the table, missed, and the room erupted into motion as officers rushed toward him. "Sir!" They caught him before he hit the floor. The shock wasn't physical weakness. It was recognition. The Admiral waved them off, steadying himself, eyes locked on her with something far heavier than authority. "I buried you," he said hoarsely. "I signed the paper. I let the system erase you." No one breathed. You weren't erased. You were protected. That broke him. He straightened, squared his shoulders, and faced the room. All candidates, attention. The snap to attention was immediate, violent in its precision. You are standing in the presence of an operator whose actions rewrote extraction doctrine, whose refusal to quit saved lives you will never know the names of. He turned to her. "For years," he continued, "this command believed Iron Widow was a cautionary tale." His voice hardened. "We were wrong." He removed his cap, a sign of respect that froze the room. "This operator will serve as lead instructor for adaptive combat survivability, effective immediately." Murmurs rippled, cut short by his raised hand. "She will not teach you strength," he said.
She will teach you responsibility." He faced her again. "Welcome back," he said quietly. She nodded once. That was enough. Later, as the room cleared, a candidate whispered to another, barely audible, "She didn't brag once." The other replied, eyes still forward, "She didn't need to." And as Iron Widow walked out, not as a ghost, not as a rumor, but as a living standard, every man in that room understood something they would carry forever. Legends don't announce themselves. They return.